In this video, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at a double acting cylinder. We're going to take it apart, have a look at the component parts of it, and we'll also have a look at the diagram for it as well, and label the parts. The particular one that we have here is what's called a tie rod cylinder. So it's just a rod that ties the whole cylinder together here. It's easier for disassembly, so we can see the parts in it. It is a double acting cylinder, as I said, and this one here has variable cushioning as well in it, so we'll get to see all of those parts. This one has a stroke of I think it's 80 millimeters. Okay, so you can see it popping in and out there. Okay, so to take this one apart, it's just on the back here you'll see there's 4 Allen heads. So those 4 Allen heads are connected to the tie rods that run down along here. They're actually just, these Allen heads are on nuts as such, so they may come off the tie rod, or the tie rod may come all the way out. We'll see as we go. Again, we have seals on the body here, so we're just going to be careful and just take all 4 of them, loosen them all up together, and then we can just withdraw each of them, and just continuing to cross the center and do our best to make sure we pull it apart nice and evenly so that we don't trap or pinch any of the O-rings that are in there for the seals. Okay. So once we get to there, we can just back them all off. We've got off the seal now, so we can just back them out. Okay, so you can see with this one, the nut has actually come out. Let's see what happens with the rest. Yeah, another nut, another nut, and finally another nut. So none of the tie rods actually came out with this one. So then we just gently give the end cap here, just give that a little bit of a wiggle and a shake. Okay, and it'll pop out like that. Okay, so here, just around here, you can see we've got that O-ring seal, so that's the one we're trying to protect there. So that's the end cap. We'll pop him up there out of the way. You can see the 4 tie rods here now, just sticking out at the end. Okay, so we'll just withdraw them, so we can just, if they're loose, just hand loose here. Not quite. 3 of them are. A 4th one might have give it a wiggle and a shake. He's just about coming there. So what I might do with this one, so that one is a little bit tight, so to get myself a little bit more purchase on it, we can actually just remove the body and slide that off with the tie rods. They're still capped in on this end here. So again, we just give a little wiggle and a shake, pop that out like that. Now I still have a nut on the end here, so the rod won't pull through, but I will feel a little bit of resistance just from the piston and the piston seals in here. So we just slide the body back out like that. Okay, and that's the body. Okay, we'll pop him just up there like that. And now we can see the piston in here. Okay, I'm going to remove the nut on this end now. That's just the nut for mounting whatever you're going to mount on the end of the rod. But he's stopping it from coming back through the end cap. So now we can take the piston out. So we can just remove the piston like that. Okay, and I could take the tie rods out now, but I've got all apart, so there's no real need, so I'll just tighten them back in there, and we'll actually leave those tie rods in place. Okay. And there we go. So we've got the end cap. So this end cap here, this is the one where the rod is coming out through. So this is the one that has the bearing seal and the rod seal and the bearing itself in there. Okay, so if we just look at the exploded view diagram that we have here, okay, you can see just on the very outside there, 19 is the rod seal. So that's 2 functions. It's keeping air trapped in this portion of the piston in here, okay, but it also acts as a wiper. Then as the rod is being retracted back into the cylinder, it just cleans off that rod so we don't bring any dirt back into it. Okay, Just inside that then is just the bearing, and the bearing is just a bush bearing. I'll put it up to the camera there, but I don't think we'll really see it. So you can see the black seal, okay, and then just behind that you can see the little bit of metal. That's just the little bushing. That's the rod bushing, or the rod bearing. Okay, the seal and the bearing they're the two most common points of failure on any cylinders that we have, generally caused because the rod doesn't run through in and out through the bearing and the seal, that it maybe runs at a slight angle because of the alignments that we have, or maybe we're putting a slight radial load on it so that it's just bending a little bit as it goes in and out, or something like that. Okay. Let's just look at the rest of the end cap here then. So there's a couple of little pieces to have a look at here. So again, on the end cap here we have an O-ring, and that's sealing the body at this end cap here. Okay, just inside here you can see the little neoprene ring. Okay, that's for, as I said, this one has cushioning. Okay, so on the rod here you can see the bulbous part here. That's where when we run up to the end, so we'll just pop this back in here again for a second. So as the cylinder is extending, okay, air is escaping out through the chamber here until we get to this point here. Okay, so when we get to this point here, that bulbous part is sealing up against that little neoprene ring in there, and that shuts off the main exhaust port, which is mounted here. Okay, so it shuts off that main exhaust port there. Okay, so now all the air that's trapped in this portion of the cylinder here has to escape out through just that small little port there. Okay, and that small little port there then comes out through here. All right, and here then we can put the Allen key into that there. We have an adjustment on this then, just a little throttle valve on that, so we can actually adjust how fast the air escapes there. So that gives us our variable cushioning there. Okay, so let's just pop this back off, or just be careful of that O-ring, he's falling off there. Okay, so these are greased up a little bit, just to allow them to operate nice and smoothly. So I just get that O-ring there, and we just pop it back on again. Be careful of the O-ring, just to make sure that as we slide it down there, we kind of try and push it down nice and straight, that we don't end up twisting it or something like that. Okay. The other end cap is the same. Okay, we've got the main port here where the air will come out and out through the main port here. Then we've got that little neoprene ring again that will seal up. It's our magnet picking up the nuts on me. That will seal up against this bulbous part at the back here. So when that enters there, it again seals off that large port. And once more we have just that small little port there where the air is going to have to go out for the cushioning. Okay, and again a small port here and an adjustable little throttle valve in there so that we can vary that cushioning. Okay, and so there are the two end caps then. I suppose the main piece then is the piston itself. So on the piston itself, we've, as I mentioned here, these two bulbous parts that give us our cushioning and the variable air cushioning. Okay, we've got a couple of neoprene rings here. Again, they're just little bumpers. They're essentially what would give us fixed cushioning if that was all that we had. They're just a little bump pads for the end of travel, just to soften it. This black O-ring here is the actual piston seal. That's creating the seal between this chamber and this chamber over here. The brown ring is the magnet, so you can see it's just pulling on the Allen key on me there. Okay, and then the white ring here is just a guide ring. Okay, and it's just guiding the piston up and down as it's moving up and down. Okay, again, it's not a sealing ring. You will find there's a split in that one. You can always tell the guide rings or the wear rings by the split in them. They're not actually a seal. Okay, so that's it. That's the main components of that. The body, there's nothing really on the body. I suppose the one thing to look at on the body here is just, if we look at it end on here, you'll see just the different profiles around the edge here. That's just allow us to put on the different shapes of reed switches or auto switches or whatever name you want to use for them. They're just little channels that we can run those through. Okay, so we'll just reassemble, I suppose, then. So I'm just going to put, there isn't an end to this or anything like that, so we'll just slide this back on over the 4 tie rods. We just line them all up. So it's not quite lining up here. So sometimes that's just as a little bit of an angle on the tie rods or something like that. So if you just loosen them gently like that, you'll get a bit of movement in them, and then maybe I'll slide this up along. So we just slide it up, and then just as we get to the end here, just be careful just to give it a little wiggle, little shake, and be gentle with it, and allow it to slip on over that O-ring without pinching it. Okay, so we just want to try and make sure it's nice and evenly as we do that. There we go. It just pops in. Okay. Now I'm just going to take those tie rods and just give them a little tighten down, then just to get them back into place. Okay. Then we'll slot in the piston and rod. So again, just be careful with the rod. We just want to pop it out through the seal there without damaging it. Okay, now at the other end we're getting caught with the O-ring here. So again, just a little twist. Just be gentle with it, and it will just pop in like that then. Okay, so down we go. We just push it down there just out of the way. Now before I put this end cap on, I just want to check my O-ring, make sure it's seated nicely. Okay, now when I'm putting this back together, I'm going to put, I just want to rotate it so that I end up with the 2 ports on the same side. Okay, it is possible to have these on different sides, and maybe for whatever application you might have, whatever access you might have to the cylinder, you might want to put those on different sides. Okay, so that's absolutely fine, we can do that. But I'm just going to put the 2 of them back on the same side. Just like that, and again, when we get to the O-ring here, just be gentle and squeeze it in like that. Okay, now we have it reassembled. We'll just pop the nuts back in. I'm not sure if the camera will catch on these nuts here, but there's one end of it has the hexagonal head nut for the Allen key, and the other end is just the threaded rounded end. So we just drop that in there and give it a thread or 2 to hold it in place, and the same with this one and this one. Oops, wasn't paying attention there. Brought that one in upside down, and this one too. Doesn't take too long to figure out you put it in upside down when you can't get the Allen key in. Okay, so yeah, we have the 4 Allen heads here. So again, we'll just bring those bolts all the way down nice and evenly. Okay, and once we start to bite, that's when we want to be really careful, because we just want to make sure we pull because remember now, when we pull these, so they're just starting to bite there now. Okay, so I'm going to tighten them up a little bit more, but just remember, as I pull these 4 down, I have the O-ring just under this seal here, and I've got the O-ring at this end as well, so I'm pulling those 2 O-rings in. So I just want to make sure I do that nice and carefully. So just a little bit, just on each corner like that, across the center as much as I can. Okay, and then just give them a final little squeeze. Again, you can see with the Allen key here, I'm just using the short leg to actually rotate it, just reducing the torque. Again, don't need too much torque on these things. Okay, over torquing an O-ring just flattens it and prevents it, or can damage the seal on it sometimes. Okay, and then we'll just put that nut back on because it's part of it. Okay, and then we'll just show you here, if I run this in and out, so you can see, you might be able to hear the little pop there. That pop is just as it actually enters the cushioning. Okay, so if I'm going to pull it out here, just watch, I'm going to maintain the same force, but you should see it slow slightly just when I get to the end of travel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close off on this cushioning port here. Alright, I'll close it all the way in and then just crack it open a little bit. So that should give us a good bit of cushioning. So you should see it's a big slow down on it this time when I go to pull it forward. Okay, so there, yeah, there's a good bit more force on it just there at the end. Okay, I'll show you again. So that's traveling normally, then at just this point here, it's a good slow down on it. So that's just the cushioning. We can open that up and then change it like that. Okay, so that's our double acting our double acting linear cylinder with the magnet in there for putting on our switches, and this one also has the adjustable cushioning or the variable cushioning.